Today, we're going to dive into how AI is poised to fix one of the biggest headaches in business: cybersecurity risk assessment. It's a process that's absolutely critical, but for most companies, it's also incredibly painful. So let me just ask a question, especially for anyone who's ever worked in a big company. Does your security process ever feel less like a shield and more like a giant anchor just slowing everything and everyone down? If that sounds familiar, you're going to want to stick around. So what's the real problem here? Well, it's this thing we can call the security bottleneck. See, in any large organization, think finance, energy, you name it, every single new IT system has to get a formal security risk assessment before it can go live. The idea is sound, but the way it's actually done, it's pretty much broken. And this really gets to the heart of it. The whole process is manual, it takes forever, and maybe worst of all, it's totally inconsistent. And look, this isn't just a minor annoyance. We're talking real-world consequences here. Project delays, tons of wasted time and effort, and even some pretty serious compliance gaps. Okay, let's get specific. Let's talk about the daily frustrations, the things that make this broken process so painful for the security teams who are actually on the ground doing the work. Turns out there are 6 main points of pain. That's right, 6 of them. And I'm willing to bet that at least a couple of these are going to sound very familiar to you. All right, first up, repetitive manual effort. Your team is basically assessing every new system from scratch, even if it's nearly identical to one they just reviewed. Then you've got fragmented data. All those past assessments are just buried in random spreadsheets and old folders, so it's impossible to learn from them. This, of course, leads to inconsistent quality, where a review is only as good as the one person who happens to do it that day. All of this creates massive delays, turning security into a roadblock. It also means teams are always reactive, finding risks only after something bad has happened. And to top it all off, the pressure from regulators just keeps going up and up. Okay, enough about the problem. It's frustrating, we get it. But what if there was a better way? This is where the story shifts. So let's introduce the hero of this story, the AI assistant. So what is this thing exactly? Well, it's an AI that uses a powerful mix of machine learning, retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, which is just a fancy way of saying it can pull information from your existing documents, and knowledge graphs. And its whole job, its entire purpose, is to automate and, this is the key part, standardize that whole risk review process. Okay, so let's pop the hood and see how this actually works. How does this AI take that complete chaos of old spreadsheets and forgotten documents and turn it into clear, intelligent action? It's actually a pretty cool 4-step process. So first, it learns. It just ingests all of your company's past risk assessments, your security controls, all the compliance standards. Then, when a new system needs a review, it automatically detects patterns, matching it to similar cases it's seen before. Based on that match, its recommendation engine suggests proven fixes that have actually worked in the past. And here's the magic. The final step, it's always learning. It gets smarter and more accurate with every single assessment it helps with. And get this, the way you interact with it is amazing. You don't have to write complex code or anything. An analyst can just ask a normal question, just like they're talking to a person. Something like, hey, what were the top recurring risks for cloud-based APIs? And bam, they get an instant data-driven answer. It's truly conversational. Now, for anyone who's ever had to sit through a compliance audit, this next part is a total game changer. Every single recommendation that AI makes comes with a source traceback. It literally shows its work. It can point to the exact document, the specific compliance rule, or the past risk assessment it used to make its decision. That gives you a crystal clear auditable trail for the regulators. And when you put the two approaches side by side like this, the transformation is just, well, it's night and day. You go from a manual process that's repetitive, fragmented, inconsistent, and reactive, to an AI-assisted one that's automated, centralized, standardized, and finally, proactive. It's a completely different way of thinking. And this really brings us to the most important point of all. This isn't just about making a slow process go a little bit faster. This represents a huge strategic shift in how security teams can, and probably should, operate from now on. The key idea is right here. This assistant doesn't just make your security team faster, it actually makes them smarter. It elevates their work. It takes them away from doing boring, repetitive paperwork and frees them up to focus on what they were hired for: analyzing new, complex threats. So how does it do that? Well, think of it this way. It basically takes all of your organization's collective security knowledge, every lesson learned, every best practice, all the expertise of your senior people, and embeds it into an AI. And what that means is that every single risk assessment now meets the same incredibly high standard, no matter if it's done by a 20-year veteran or a brand new hire. So, I'll just leave you with this one final thought to chew on. Imagine a world where you no longer have to worry about inconsistency or things getting missed. What would it mean for your business, for your peace of mind, if every single risk assessment you did was as good as your absolute best one?